All right, well, let's get right into the news then.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. North and South American. All the ships and clippers at sea. Let's go to press. Fly.
News.
First bit of news, we got something from Jamie Stegmeyer. Jamie, thank you so much. You reached out to the podcast. You had very kind things to say about the podcast, and we just want you to know that we are fans here. We think that you are doing a great thing. We love that you are an independent publisher, that you've created your own publishing house. We think that is the future. Get rid of the gatekeepers, do it yourself, and blaze a path for others. We think that is fantastic. Going all the way back to viticulture, we are fans of your games. Listen, I'll say, Tapestry I didn't love. I had problems with it. It wasn't my cup of tea. I'm very happy to report that tons of people love that game, play it obsessively, and that's why it's good to note that we have a new expansion for Tapestry that is coming out. Plans and Ploys is coming out. It looks gorgeous. It's going to do a few things. First of all, it has 5 new monuments, those big buildings that you get and you put on your board. One of my complaints in the original game was that you have these gorgeous, huge pieces that you get to take and put on your player mat, and then they don't do anything, right? All they do is take up space. And I felt that was kind of overproduced for what it was. Well, guess what? These 5 new ones, they have powers. They do things. They change the state. It's almost like he was listening. That's going to be, I'm sure he's listened to a lot of people that were talked about that. There were also a problem with the trap cards in the game. People had a problem with that. Guess what? There's a new type of trap card, which might be something that you can counter, which is kind of interesting. New cards, new balance. There's new factions as well. The faction that everybody is talking about right now is called, which one is the faction there? The Utilitarians. The Utilitarians look absolutely fascinating. So, listen, if you love Tapestry, you're going to get this, right? This looks like a good expansion. If you did not love Tapestry, I don't think that this is probably going to change your mind necessarily. But if you were on the fence about Tapestry, if you were like, I kind of like Tapestry, but I don't love it, I would seriously look into getting this expansion. I think probably there are more people that liked Tapestry but didn't love it than there were people that just flat out didn't like it, because there's a lot to like in the game. If you are one of those people, take a look at Plans and Ploys, because this might be something that really that really changes the game and moves it toward the experience that you were hoping for it to be. Alfred, you played Tapestry before?
Yeah, I got it to the table. Thankfully, I think it was Maddie got it to the table once or twice, and I got a chance to lay hands. Maybe it was actually you, but either way, I really did enjoy it. These kind of games like Feast for Odin, some of these games that are taking up space, you're demorphing and having to solve the puzzle.
Yeah.
Of your own reckoning, I find it to be really soothing, actually. Unlike some of those kind of games where you're kind of in the shared board space and you're kind of quibbling over things. It reminds me a little bit of Feast for Odin, of course, and then like even Pipeline to a different degree. This kind of self satisfaction of getting something very correct on oneself, on one's own kind of space is, I don't know. It's like actually like doing an actual puzzle. I just dug it.
Yeah, and, it does. It does have a puzzle aspect to it, doesn't it? Yeah.
And also just the thing too. It's like where I know where maybe I'm just going to say it. I know Dimitri might disagree and think that you need to have this like distinct player interaction for fun to exist. We don't have to. We can have disagreements in the podcast. It's beautiful. It's like we have a diverging amount of space, but you like somehow you need to have these like kind of face-to-face moments of directly. Lying to each other or what? I don't know exactly. But anyways, either way, whatever Dimitri was getting at, there's other sublime experiences that have to do with just the artwork and things fitting perfectly and kind of well-solved moments.
Yeah.
The right decisions. I mean, those are beautiful. And those don't have to happen necessarily directly looking in someone else's eyes. And and something happening.
Understood. I thought yesterday you said you were in total agreement with Dimitri about every point that he possibly had. I thought
I threatened to try to make that argument, but I couldn't get there. I couldn't do it.
So I'm gonna reframe what you just said, because I think it's a really good point. I think that games, to a large extent, are bringing order from chaos. I think that there's a lot of that in games. They are mathematical puzzles in which you are trying to create something from nothing to some degree, and you're trying to bring order and balance to something that is naturally quite disparate and messed up. And when you have something like a board, when you have Feast for Odin, when you have all of these, there's just this messy board with all these little things on it, and then you're filling it in, and you're filling it in ways that make pleasing patterns. There's something. You don't have to be Marie Kondo to understand that there is something deeply satisfying about that.
And can I put this in Dimitri terms?
Sure.
I can do this real quick. So in music, for instance, there is often this disagreement or this friction between Apollonian and Dionysian thought. You want the Apollonian, you want order and reason, you want the Dionysus, you want the chaos and creativity. Mm-hmm. And when those two fuse, that's often when you have the most classical form of harmony.
Ah, interesting.
And so much like in game space, you want enough decision room that the chaos is felt, but you can render order from that. Or indeed, from the opposite side, there is too much order and reason, and you can find the creative ends. The synthesis between the two could be
interesting. Yeah. No, I totally. In writing, there's a little bit of that too, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
you want that chaotic force there, because that's the surprise, that's the suspense, that's the I have no idea where this story is going, and then bringing it into line and bringing it into form is a deeply satisfying result. So yeah, and interesting. Let's move on to our next bit, which is Wolfgang Varsh. Wolfgang Varsh could not be a hotter designer. He is on the roll of all rolls. Basically, everything he has put out in the last few years has turned to gold. Well, he's got a new version of his So Clever series. He's got Clever Hoch 3. I don't know what the English version of that will be, but it is another one of these the multiplayer solitaire, roll the dice, choose where to place it, sort of roll and write games. And every one of those so far, I think there have been two of them. There's Ganz schön clever and Doppelt so clever. Both of them fantastic. So if this is anything like the other two, it's something you should look at. And Quedlinburg, they have another expansion for that. The second expansion is the Alchemists. The first expansion was called the Herb Witches. And this one is called The Alchemists. Don't know too much about it, but listen, if you like Quedlinburg and it's feeling a little old, maybe check it out, right?
Awesome.
Next up, we have a game. This is a game that looks interesting to me. This is a game that it looks gorgeous and sounds really cool. Gil Hova, if you know the name Gil Hova, it's because he did a game called The Networks a few years ago, and when it came out, everyone was like, "Oh, this is interesting." You were basically a card-based game where you're establishing a network and you're getting shows, and it felt a little, I would say, a little Glory to Rome. It was good. It's a very interesting design. And he has come up with a game called High Rise, and it is gorgeous. It is a long board that kind of looks like Manhattan or something along those lines. And there are skyscrapers that you are building. The goal is to build the biggest, tallest high-rises that you possibly can in the game. It looks pretty involved. It does not involve money, though. What it involves is corruption. Corruption is the economy. Is the economy.
Maybe appropriate,
right? Doesn't that sound great? I love that. You are going to need to get blueprints. You're going to need to there's construction to the game. There's all sorts of things to the game. And one of the interesting things is that when you move around the board to get the things that you need, it is a one-way only move. So you're kind of moving in a rotation, which to me sounds like the mechanism from Francis Drake and from Lignum. which is this, that sort of thing where, oh my God, it's my turn to go. I could go one space and grab this thing that I really want, but I could jump ahead 5 spaces and grab that thing that probably won't be there when it comes back around to me. But if I do that, all the things that I've skipped over, I cannot go back and get again. And it's just I love that design element. I wish that it was in more games. I think that it creates wonderfully juicy decisions, and it creates this great situation in which nobody is happy at the end of the round of that because nobody did it just right. You're always dealing with, okay, well, I was able to do A, but I was not able to do B, C, or D, and that's fascinating.
I mean, it speaks to the fact that our number one game is Great Western Trail, which uses that same mechanism or mechanic really well.
Yeah.
You have to make a decision about, like, am I going to try to grind and do everything, or am I going to rush the game, aka Paul? I will say, and this is just an aside, but a high-rise idea. I know in movies there is this thing where one movie comes out or is being pushed, and then seemingly 5 other films of the same plot are also coming out at the same time. And this game seems like it's differentiating itself in meaningful ways, but what's up with all the high-rise games? What's up with building buildings? It's, I mean, you can go all the way back to Acquire to say that it's always been there. It's been something that's been in our hobby forever, but I do think that Big City and the Estates, and there's a lot of games that are coming out right now, some of which are re-releases, actually, that are really doing the city building thing. I don't know if it's because we have a urban real estate developer in the White House. I think it is possible that the reason High Rise doesn't use money but instead uses corruption could have something to do with that. We don't know. We can't speak to it's
that.
A gentle amount of the cost. Just putting it a little bit in terms that you can game, but we also can understand the severity of the situation.
Maybe
I like that.
Maybe it could be that urban planning and city construction is a form of colonialism that doesn't press any hot buttons, that doesn't offend in the way that certain other things do. I mean, if you look deeply enough, it probably does, but...
Oh, no. Redlining and all the rest, there's tons there, but we don't have to use the exact structures, right? We can kind of look at it in these more broad terms that can still get to the point without scaring away the jilted.
Yes.
I love it.
I was deciding whether or not to announce this next thing because there's so nothing about it. We know almost nothing about this thing, but we have to announce it. Dune Imperium is going to be coming to us. It is a deck-building worker placement game set in the world of Dune. Basically, a Euro card game of Dune. Take my money. I don't know. I don't know anything about it. I know.
You are part of the Whisper campaign now. You are the Whisper campaign.
I can't help it. I wanted to not say anything, and then people were like, "Dude, why didn't you announce the Dune game?" And I'm like, because there's nothing to announce. It's just
it's an amazing IP. We want more in that space.
Yeah,
but sure, the new movie's coming, and sure, the miniseries from not too long ago, and obviously the previous movie and everything about it. It just wants to be spelled out. We want to live in that space. It's so much more space opera than Star Wars ever was. No offense to any Trekkies or Star Wars people, but
careful.
Those books are incredible, irregardless of how they might compare or stack up to others. The world that was built in those books, you just want to play in that sandbox.
I do. I have to confess, I have gotten myself so worked up and so excited about Denis Villeneuve and the cast that I am now going the other way, and I'm just on a daily basis, I am just saying it's unfilmable. It can't really be filmed. Look, they're great. They're going to do a fine job, but it's going to be disappointing. And I'm literally trying to talk myself down because I know that I'm putting every disappointment in 2020 into a little box, and it's called the Dune movie, and it's going to be my redemption. And
well, now I know where all the excitement's going, though, because now all that excess excitement from the idea is now going to this card game. It makes sense.
A little bit. Talking about great IP, The Princess Bride. There's an adventure book game that is coming out. Ravensburger is going to be putting it out. And
alert Maddie.
Right?
Get you in that sweet spot of your adventure book.
Oh my goodness, he's not that far away from being able to play this with his kids either. It's just a few years away from that. You're going to tell it's a 6-chapter story. And you're going to deal with the shrieking eels. You're going to deal with the kissing. You're going to be dealing with mostly dead. I mean, it looks awesome. It looks wonderful when you open. There are 6 characters. 7. I'm sorry. There are 7 miniatures that you can play with. There are cards. So when you open it up, it is like 6 different boards that you play these mini games on. I'm getting this. There's no way I'm not getting this. I can't wait. I hope that they do it justice. Plays in 15 to 90 minutes, and what else can I say? Like, I hope that they do it justice. But I'm gonna get this. No question about it.
I mean, they're remaking this movie too, right? Supposedly, that's happening.
I'm skeptical as to whether or not they actually will.
Let's just keep on inflating the old one until we have to reckon with something new. But this sounds really awesome. So
look, I liked Lynch's Dune. I didn't, but it could certainly be a lot better, right? It is interesting.
I adored that cast. I really liked. I don't know about the different cuts and the different ways it was rendered, but goodness.
It wasn't a masterpiece. Let's just say that. Right?
Sting. I'm Sting alone.
Sting.
Price of admission.
I will kill him. But it's not, but it's not perfect. So somebody coming on and saying, let me take a little stab at Dune. I'm like, yes, do it. Princess Bride could not be, I mean, it's so perfect. It really is one of those magical things where everything about it just worked so well that to remake something that was already done so perfectly, I really question whether or not that's a good idea. I don't want to be a gatekeeper, but yeah.
I will say that I was never satisfied with Fred Savage or Columbo. Oh, what's that dude's name?
Peter Falk. How dare you?
Falk. I just did, maybe just I was young. It didn't it seemed too acted to me, that part. I mean, it's the only part that's supposed to not be acted. It's supposed to be the real part, and everything else is fantastical. Anyways, small quibbles. I'm open to this idea.
All right, we're no longer friends.
If I only had my what does he have, a cigar or something, and like a trench, like a blonde trench to he did something. I remember vaguely he did something.
Columbo, you heathen, you bastard. Columbo, Peter Falk, come on, Cassavetes. He was one of the Cassavetes crew. Oh, okay, he's unbelievable. If you have never seen a movie called Tune In Tomorrow, it is a totally lost gem. Nobody saw it. It is based on a famous Brazilian book called Aunt Julia and the Scriptwriter. It is set in New Orleans in the radio era. And Peter Falk plays Pedro Carmichael, the world's greatest writer of radio soap operas during that time, who blows into town and upends everything because he writes from real life and he creates drama and conflict and problems with everybody. Keanu Reeves is in this movie. It's an astonishing performance by him. One of my favorites of all time. Check it out. Tune in tomorrow. There you go.
Awesome.
Little bonus there. Harry Potter. There's going to be a Harry Potter game. It's going to be. It looks to me like a light Euro. It looks to me almost like something Prospero Hall would do. Harry Potter House Cup Competition is what it's called. You can play Harry Potter, Cedric Diggory, Draco Malfoy, so on and so forth, and you're trying to earn the cup champion. 20 points for Gryffindor, and so on and so forth. So if you are a trans-exclusionary radical feminist, then by all means, check this game out. It's a problem. I can't even talk about Harry Potter anymore.
I mean, I think it's just problematic enough that you're actually going to be playing Harry or these other characters in the book. I just think this would be an opportunity to mine some of the less, either make unknown characters that we can all be more, we can kind of, archetype on, or maybe less known characters. But just to play Harry, it just seems like that book's been written, that ship has sailed. But this is just coming from a knee-jerk place. I'm sure it's a great game. Let's do it.
I hear you.
Let's play.
Glenmore 2 has an expansion called Highland Games. It's going to add 3 new chronicles, and it's going to add an Automa solo mode. If you guys know Automa, they are the gold standard of solo modes. Glenmore 2 is a great game. It really is a lot of fun. We reviewed it earlier this year, and it is solid. I didn't think the chronicles were unbelievable. I didn't think they changed the game, as much as they should. Maybe the new Chronicles will. I don't know. But if you like the game and now you're in isolation, hey, get this, because being able to play Glenmore in solo mode sounds really fantastic. It's a really good design. I really, really like it.
Awesome.
On Kickstarter right now. And I think we got one more. Yeah, this one's just for you, Alfred. Alfred, do you remember? Before the event? We almost have to talk about it in those terms. Alfred, do you remember when we weren't eating out of cans and?
No, quite frankly, but I believe I've heard tell.
And scrounging for firewood. Back before that time, when we could go out into the air. You and I did an episode where we did role-playing games. We talked about role-playing games.
Yeah, we talked. That was the longest episode I think ever. I think we did that. I think
we broke the podcast. And you brought up in that episode, I believe it was in that episode, you were like, there was this game, and I don't remember the name of it, and it's there. You play soldiers, but it's sort of like after a war and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. You were right on it. You remembered
Twilight 2000. Yes.
Exactly.
No,
you were right on it.
Absolute classic. Guess what? On Kickstarter right now, with 19 days to go, is a new version of Twilight 2000. It's as though they knew you were coming on the podcast this week. It is going to be a new retro-apocalyptic edition. In the original edition, I think that the date of Twilight 2000 was obviously 2000, and there had been a limited nuclear conflagration and so on and so forth. And
it was very much like the Reds, right? We were like fighting like the Russians or something. It was like, what was that one classic terrible movie where we're fighting Koreans, I want to say, like in like Idaho? Goodness, what's that called?
Are you referring to Red Dawn, sir?
Maybe I'm referring to Red Dawn.
You're referring to Red Dawn. Wolverines, assemble! Come on. Come on. C. Thomas Howell and Patrick Swayze. And, come on. Written by John Milius. And written and directed, I believe, by John Milius. Yeah, no, I mean, absolute classic. They did a remake of it recently as well.
Okay, I'm missing. But that being said, Twilight 2000 was so good. Please tell me, did they update the name or they kept it Twilight 2000?
They kept it Twilight 2000.
Wow, amazing.
They kept it Twilight 2000. I'm looking at this right now. There are maps. There are maps that change the terrain and stuff like that. So it looks like it'll have a little bit of miniature skirmish kind of thing to it. Now we're going to be in an alternate timeline where the Moscow coup of 1991 succeeded. The Soviet Union never collapsed, and so we're going to be sort of retelling that story, which means we get to do things like the original Twilight 2000. I think the first expansion was called Pirates of the Vistula, which is you're battling in Poland basically. You're battling in Czechoslovakia, Poland, and those sort of countries. You're behind the Iron Curtain and you're fighting things out. You get to do that again. Alfred and I both have tremendous memories of this game. If you're into tabletop role playing games, it definitely might be something that you should check out. Especially, look at it, and if it floats your boat, back it. This game is a classic.
Yeah, we can't speak to what the new one's going to be like, but the original one had such a cost. You really felt the gravitas, and it isn't just the setting. It was like things were scarce and hard, but real. And so it had a weight to it that a lot of role-playing games aren't really willing to check into.
Yeah, you were scavenging for everything, and like it felt like that you could have all the guns in the world, but where's the ammo? How are you gonna
Or
have
where's the
enough
food? Where's the can
Yes.
opener?
Yes.
You know?
Yes, and then the locals who you are not supposed to get on the bad side of. You may have to raid for your essentials and things like that, and the fuel. Right? We got a BMP. We got a
I just remember siphoning. I just remember as a young person learning what siphoning gas meant, something I had never experienced previously. But like in the game, there was like a skill that allowed you to unlock this ability to like siphon gas from disused old cars, and just like, oh, okay, like I have to do what now to do this thing? And yeah, that game really brought it home.
You never siphoned gas as a kid?
No, no.
What did you use? What did you use for your Molotov cocktails? I don't understand.
You had a different '80s experience than I did. It sounds like a decidedly different '80s experience.
Well, when you spent a little time at Belfast, you have to take care of the British when they come up the door.
Hey, if you enjoyed that video, you very well might enjoy the other videos you now see being suggested to you on screen. Also, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could like, share, or subscribe to our Game Brain channel. Thanks so much.